There's a strange, almost parasitic relationship we have with nostalgia. We hold on to these memories of our childhood with a protective ferocity, clutching them close like a security blanket. They're a place we can go back to when the world gets too cynical, too complicated, too real. But what happens when that security blanket is revealed to be a lie? What happens when the architect of your fondest, most cherished on-screen memories is revealed to be the very last person you'd ever want to leave a child alone with? For millions of millennials and Gen Z, the name Dan Schneider is synonymous with a kind of childhood television utopia. He was the king of Nickelodeon, the man who shaped our humor, our inside jokes, and our afternoons. He gave us Drake and Josh, iCarly, and Victorious. But the truth is, Dan Schneider's legacy isn't about funny catchphrases or iconic moments. It's a story of unchecked power, a culture of fear, and a dark underbelly of alleged abuse that was hiding in plain sight. It's the story of how the man who made us laugh also created a breeding ground for manipulation and psychological damage. And the worst part is, we were all watching. We just didn't know what we were seeing. You've already seen the man's name everywhere, plastered across the screen at the end of every show that defined your childhood. But that's the thing. We only ever saw his name. We never saw the man behind the name. And the real man, the one who ruled an empire of child-friendly television from his office throne, is not the lovable, goofy showrunner we all imagined. He's something far more sinister. Dan Schneider's legacy isn't the comedy, it's the cruelty. It's the accusations of a toxic, manipulative, and abusive work environment. It's the horrifying stories of a man who held immense power over the careers and lives of children, and allegedly used that power to get what he wanted. As former Zoe 101 star Alexa Nicholas put it, Dan Schneider was a tyrant. I was scared of him. This is not a story about a funny guy who made some mistakes. This is a cold, hard dissection of a man who shaped an entire generation, but whose true nature has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Before he was the shadowy figure behind the camera, the man we now know as a controversial showrunner was just another guy trying to make it in Hollywood. Dan Schneider's story doesn't begin with a writer's room. It begins in front of the camera, trying to be a star himself. He came up in the 1980s as a young actor, and you've almost certainly seen him, even if you don't remember it. He had a role in the John Cusack film Better Off Dead, a small part in the sitcom Head of the Class, and even a part in the movie Big Fat Liar. He was a performer, a comedic actor, but he was never a major star. He was, for lack of a better term, a working actor. The real shift in his career, and the shift that would eventually lead to his immense power, came when he transitioned from actor to writer. He didn't just stumble into it. He was mentored by the legendary producer Al Burton, who was one of the men behind a little show called Leave It to Beaver. By the early 90s, Schneider was a key creative force at Nickelodeon. He started with All That, a sketch comedy show for kids. It was a massive success, a cultural touchstone that launched the careers of Kenan Thompson and Amanda Bynes. From there, he created Kenan and Kel, a show that solidified his brand of slapstick, high-energy comedy. Dan Schneider wasn't just a producer. He was the architect. He built a comedic empire from the ground up, one hit show after another. He became the face of Nickelodeon's teen programming, the go-to guy for a generation. He was more than a showrunner. He was an institution. He was the king of a network that was defining an entire generation. And it was that position, that immense, unchecked creative and financial power, that would become the very foundation of his downfall. Nostalgia. It's a powerful and dangerous thing. It's an emotional editing room where we selectively choose the clips we want to remember and delete the ones that make us uncomfortable. For a whole generation, our nostalgia is directly linked to the golden age of Nickelodeon, a time of slapstick, vibrant colors, and wholesome fun. But the unedited footage of that era is a horror show. The stories of Dan Schneider's on-set behavior were never just rumors. The whispers have been around for years, but most of us chose to ignore them because the truth was simply too ugly to look at. On sets like The Amanda Show and Zoe 101, a toxic, uncomfortable, and even predatory environment was festering under the surface. It was a world where boundaries were not just blurred, they were erased entirely by the man who held all the power. Schneider's alleged behavior was meticulous in its depravity. He would often ask for massages from young actors and writers, blurring the professional line into something deeply inappropriate. Former writer Christy Stratton claimed in a documentary that Schneider made inappropriate and sexual remarks on set. Then there are the foot fetish scenes, which weren't just a bizarre recurring theme. They were a reflection of a man using his position to indulge a grotesque personal fixation on the set of a children's show. When you rewatch the old clips now, with this new context, the subtext is no longer subtext. It's glaringly obvious and deeply unsettling. Following an internal investigation, Nickelodeon and its longtime creative partner Dan Schneider mutually agreed to part ways in March 2018. The joint statement released by the network and Schneider was vague, describing the split as a natural time for both parties to pursue other opportunities and projects. This lack of specific detail about the reasons for his departure led to significant speculation and further investigation by major news outlets. The vagueness of the official statement contrasted sharply with reports from sources like Deadline, which noted that the exit was linked to multiple complaints of abusive behavior filed by staff members. Subsequent reports from publications like the New York Times in 2021 further detailed that an internal investigation by Viacom CBS, Nickelodeon's parent company, had found evidence of verbal abuse by Schneider toward his colleagues. The investigation, however, reportedly found no evidence of sexual misconduct. The public's curiosity and media's scrutiny were fueled by the joint statement's effusive praise for Schneider's contributions, which seemed at odds with the serious allegations circulating behind the scenes. This created a disconnect that led journalists to dig deeper, revealing the more complex and problematic issues that were the true catalyst for his departure. The Quiet on Set docuseries brought to light a number of definitive revelations, confirming long-standing rumors about the toxic environment at Nickelodeon under producer Dan Schneider. Damning testimonies and revelations. The most impactful revelation was the testimony of actor Drake Bell. For the first time publicly, he revealed that he was the victim of sexual abuse at the hands of Brian Peck, a Nickelodeon dialogue coach. Peck was convicted of the abuse in 2003, but Bell's identity as the victim had been sealed. The docuseries also featured testimonies from former female writers Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgan, who described a hostile, misogynistic work environment where they felt humiliated by Schneider. The series also highlighted in plain sight moments from the shows themselves, showcasing inappropriate gags and sexual innuendos acted out by minors, which had previously been dismissed as harmless humor. Psychological impact on former child stars. The docuseries delves into the lasting psychological trauma experienced by the former child actors. Drake Bell's account detailed how the abuse he suffered at age 15 led him to a self-destructive path for years. The series also features other former child stars, such as Alexa Nicholas, who describes her time on set as so damaging that she could not show up to set anymore without crying. Many former cast and crew members expressed a sense of altered self-worth and a loss of innocence due to the pressures and toxicity of the work environment. This, along with accounts from other former child stars, confirms that the psychological impact of the work environment was severe and long-lasting, leaving a trail of trauma in its wake. The in plain sight moments of sexual innuendo in his shows were not just poor comedic choices, but a reflection of a deeply predatory culture. Dan Schneider's legacy, therefore, is not a misunderstood artistic vision. It is a grim reminder that fame and power, when left unchecked, can be used to manipulate and abuse the most vulnerable. He serves as a powerful symbol of a public's slow awakening to uncomfortable truths behind the scenes of beloved childhood entertainment. You've just witnessed how the pursuit of fame can devolve into a cautionary tale of unchecked power and abuse. This story shatters the illusion of innocence and reminds us that true accountability is what's needed to heal the wounds of a generation. Thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone. Subscribe, Hammentary.